Dr. Anthony Harper here, blessed to be in the Knesset with MK Sharen Haskel. Thank you for joining me today.
It is my pleasure. Thank you, Anthony.
We've been involved in it, and it's great to join you about very important topics. Now, UNRWA is one of several issues. We initially were, participating together. There was some investigation. And I wanted to mention, David Bedin. He really compliments you on your work with UNRWA, and you've done a lot in that matter. And with the Center for Near East Policy Research has done a lot of research. And you're familiar with Senator Risch. Senator Risch has been involved with keeping money from going to UNRWA. And President Biden actually just recently had a video saying that he's leading a task force to combat anti-Semitism, but he's sending money to UNRWA, or funds to that and Palestinian Authority. Any comment you might have about the issue of U.S. money is getting to both of those organizations?
So first of all, I would like to congratulate and to thank the administration, President Biden, on this reform to combat anti-Semitism. It is extremely important when we see the rise of racism, anti-Semitism against Jews, and we have to combat it. People have lost their lives. There's been attacks on synagogues and on different Jewish communities in the United States, and it's critical that the United States will take actions in order to combat it. With that, it is important to also see how we minimize the spread of anti-Semitism, and definitely throughout education. And on the other hand, the United States know what the education system in UNRWA is like, in the Palestinian Authority. They have textbooks where they are spreading anti-Semitic, tales and lies. They are educating and teaching young children to hate Jews. And it's important that the American people will not sponsor that and will not pay for that kind of education. I do think that this is something that the administration needs to put its hands on, to put a condition to the Palestinian Authority that if they want to continue that funding, it will come only at the expense of eliminating any kind of anti-Semitic notions and slogans and tales in their textbooks. What can more Israel do to combat terrorism, to hold the UNRWA accountable, and other, the Palestinian Authority? What can Israel do more? So there's actually legislation that I'm working on now, which is in a process. It's already passed the General Assembly and it is now being discussed in the committee, on letting people who were hurt by terrorist attacks to sue the person or the organization that that is responsible for that terrorist attack. Until now in Israel, many victims of terrorist attack did not sue for compensation on the damage that was caused to them because of terrorist attacks. And while the Palestinian Authority is paying huge amounts of salaries to terrorists that are sitting in Israeli prisons, or to families of terrorists who committed attacks, it actually takes responsibility on their actions. They are declaring that they are paying them salaries because they are soldiers in captivity, which means that the Palestinian Authority has sent them to commit a terrorist attack, on children, murder women, it's admitting that it sends them to commit those crimes. And so now victims of those attacks will be able to sue the Palestinian Authority for compensation for the damage that was done to them because of what they did.
Well, these are a very serious issue. Here in the U.S., I mentioned that the Biden administration giving money to Palestinian Authority, but not conditioning it on to make sure that they're not doing that pay for slay program rewarding people killing a Jew and holding them accountable. So that's what you're saying, is that there has to be accountability and conditioning. That no money unless they can prove, and there's some way of suing and getting some response. And there have been a lot of hot issues here in Jerusalem a lot here lately. I'm just wondering, I've heard about billboards that are along the roads, the freeways, that say something about avoid a dictatorship, about kind of reminds me of V15 and One Voice during the Obama administration days. Do you know anything about any billboards in opposition to the current Netanyahu government?
Look, we are in a challenging time here in Israel. We have been for the past 4 years in a political turmoil. And we've been going from election to another. We didn't have a stable government for a long time. Unfortunately, some of the reforms that Netanyahu is bringing now is creating uncertainty and creating really a true scare and worry for citizens here in Israel. We are combating some of these reforms. And I hope that here in Israel we'll be able to succeed to stop that.
It was a challenging time, and I know a lot of evangelical Christians in America that have been very supportive of the Netanyahu government. They appreciate what you've been doing with exposing UNRWA, and I know the Prime Minister Netanyahu has been concerned about UNRWA as well. But besides that, there's been a lot of protests about this parade here in Jerusalem this week, termed as the gay parade, and blocking the streets and all that. Do you have any comments to protesters upset about this blocking the streets of Jerusalem?
Yeah, well, freedom of protest and freedom of speech should be upheld to everybody. And therefore, anyone who wants to voice their agenda, their values, their political point of view, will always, we have to make sure that it's free and open to everybody.
Okay, so back to the billboard issue. You're not aware of who would be behind putting up those billboards, about the opposition to what's going on right now.
I know that there are many leaders of different protests. There's a group of lawyers who are pushing through some of these protests. There is a big group of cybersecurity, like high-tech industry that is leading another part of these protests as well. There is a big group of ex-military, of veterans, who are leading another side of this protest. So it can be any one of these groups or many more who are part of these protests.
Yeah, I think about with that. Is there any idea, any concern that maybe there's something, some organization in the U.S. being behind the opposition to the Netanyahu government?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? But I just wanted to say, thank you for helping exposing UNRWA. Are your plans to continue to oppose UNRWA and what it stands for?
Absolutely, I will continue to fight to bring the truth out.
Well, there's a lot more to deal with, and thank you for joining me here.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's a blessing to talk with you. Thank you. Well, here with MK Sharen Haskel, a very special day here in Jerusalem. A lot of hot issues to deal with. And do pray for the peace of Jerusalem and for what is going on here, for protection over Israel. It's a very troubling time, but there is hope. Thank you.